At the start of our story, we meet a skilled sharpshooter named Drasa who has been concealed within a tunnel for many hours. She is in fact patiently awaiting her target, her intended victim. Drasa had been assigned the mission to eliminate a high-ranking government official at the nearby airport. Just a short while later, a passenger plane makes its landing on the runway. The moment Drasa caught sight of her target, she eliminated it with a single shot from several kilometers away. Drasa executes this task with such incredible precision that the guards present there have no idea who fired the shot or from where. After successfully completing her mission, Drasa proceeds to her mother's grave, where her father is already present, waiting for her. It is here that we uncover another crucial piece of information about Drasa. Whenever she takes a life with her rifle, she meticulously collects the spent bullet casing, and subsequently, she hands all these accumulated casings over to her father. You see, Drasa was, in fact, a contract killer, which means she would murder individuals for financial gain, and by this time she had already ended numerous lives. He absolutely didn't like killing people, but now this work had become his profession, so Drasa would hand those bullet casings to her father, which would lessen her sorrow a little. Drasa tells her father that she has received another new project that will last for an entire year. I may not be able to meet you then. To which Drasa's father replies, you come every year and just hand me some empty pill wrappers. But next year, it won't be like this. My cancer is in its last stage. I don't have much time left, and if I don't die in the coming days, I will end my life myself on February 14th, Valentine's Day, because I have no reason to live anymore. Your mother is also dead, and you, because of your work, only come to see me once or twice a year. So this could very well be our last meeting. Upon hearing this, Drasa's eyes begin to well up. Now the scene shifts here, and we are introduced to the story's second lead character, Levi. Levi's life was not going well at all, not in the slightest. He was frequently plagued by terrifying nightmares, and sleep would always remain far away from his eyes. One night, after waking from a disturbing nightmare, Levi leaves his home and walks down to the ocean's edge. Here, he begins to feel a bit more at ease, and he starts to write in his personal diary. Just then, Levi suddenly receives an urgent message on his phone. That message contains a specific address where he is instructed to arrive as quickly as possible. Levi, without wasting any precious time, makes his way to a military base, where he encounters a lady officer whose name is Barto. During their subsequent conversation, we come to realize that Levi was no ordinary individual, but rather a seasoned army officer. However, he has since retired from service, and not only that, he was also a highly skilled and deadly sniper. In fact, he has successfully eliminated more than 200 individuals through his expert sniping. Barto says to Levi, I want to send you on a mission because you're an excellent sniper, and only you can accomplish this. But before dispatching him on the mission, Barto asks Levi a very crucial question. If you go on this mission, is there anyone left behind who will remember you? Hearing this, he starts to feel a little strange, but then he replies, no, I have no one of my own left in this world now. Hearing this, the lady tells Levi, you need to get ready. In a few hours, you will be dispatched on that mission, and you are to remain there for a full year. Following this, Levi is rendered unconscious, and upon regaining consciousness, he discovers himself inside an aeroplane. Levi doesn't understand at all where he's being taken or what kind of mission he's been assigned. So Levi asks one of the soldiers who is standing there, where exactly am I being taken? But the soldier doesn't give any answer to Levi's question. He simply says, hand over your ID and your watch to us. You will get all of this back once your mission is completed. A little while later, the soldier informs him, it's now time for you to disembark from the plane. In just a few minutes, we will be entering a no-flying zone area. We do not have permission to proceed any further from this point. He simply tells him that after getting off, you will have to walk 32 kilometers north, all by yourself. Then you will reach your mission's designated location. But Levi's mind was still preoccupied with one single thought. He asked the soldier again, where exactly are we going? The soldier replies, I am not permitted to answer that question. There's a microphone installed in my uniform. If I were to tell you anything about this location, I could be dismissed from my job, or even worse, I might be killed. Upon hearing these words, Levi's breath completely catches in his throat. Following this, he is handed a parachute, and the moment the plane's door swings open, Levi leaps out and makes a safe landing. However, the true challenge, the real game, is only just beginning now. A grueling distance of 32 kilometers had to be covered by him on foot. Levi spends 2 full days walking on foot, and after this long journey of 2 days, he finally reaches his destination. He observes that it is an extremely desolate area, where not even a single bird can be seen, let alone any human presence. It is then that he encounters a man by the name of JD. JD had been stationed here on a mission for an entire year. His duty has now come to an end, so now Levi will take his place. JD takes Levi to a watchtower. After reaching the very top of the tower, Levi still couldn't understand what he was supposed to do there. When he asks JD this very question, JD replies, there's a very deep trench here, which has been named Gorge. This is a very mysterious, deep trench whose bottom no one has ever reached. Your job is very simple. You must guard this trench. Then he informs Levi of the strict rules here. He says, you can phone headquarters only once a month from here. Whatever happens, don't expect to connect with the outside world. This tower, which we call the West Tower, has the East Tower directly opposite. That one is Russian territory. Over there, a guard is also performing his duties, but no contact is permitted between the two of you. You must only focus on your duty. And yes, always be ready for any impending danger because you can be attacked here at any moment. Automatic guns are installed here and many landmines are placed below. If the automatic guns run out of bullets, always keep them reloaded because they will be very useful during the attack. And one last thing, if you ever hear a loud siren sound here, then just run away from here without a second thought. JD says, I don't even know why this was said, but what the previous duty worker told me, that's exactly what I'm relaying to you. Levi listens carefully to everything he says, but he had only one question. He asks, what exactly is so incredibly important here that such strict security measures have been put in place? Just then, JD pulls out a hand grenade and hurls it down into that incredibly deep, dark trench. The very moment the grenade detonates deep within the chasm's dark depths, a strange and truly terrifying sound begins to reverberate from within. That sound was not human at all. It belonged to something hidden in the dark. JD looks at Levi and says, this sound you're hearing, it's from creatures we call hollow men. These creatures live inside this pit, and your duty is to ensure no creature gets out. It is widely believed that in 1940, a force of 2,400 US Army soldiers was sent deep down into this pit with the objective that these soldiers could eradicate every single creature found within that pit. But to this very day, not a single one of those soldiers has ever returned alive. And now JD, after giving Levi all the complete information about every single detail, began preparing to return home because he had successfully finished his one-year duty here. Now it was Levi's turn to serve his duty here for an entire year. JD says goodbye to Levi and then leaves this place. He was extremely happy knowing he'd be home after a whole year. However, he had no idea that something terrible was about to unfold. Just thinking about it is terrifying. Upon reaching the location, as soon as JD lights up a cigarette, a helicopter approaches to retrieve him. The helicopter then lowers a rope for him and JD immediately starts ascending into the aircraft using this rope. A soldier positioned inside the helicopter first proceeds to confirm JD's identity. When JD provides him with all the necessary information, the soldier inside the helicopter first shoots JD, then cuts his rope, letting him fall to his death. At this point, one crucial fact had become undeniably clear. Anyone who ever sets foot in this particular location will never ever be able to return from it. After this, we are shown the scene of the following day. Levi begins to carry out his duties. First, he checks some reports here and reloads all the automatic guns that are running low on ammunition. Days pass by like this, and then a whole month goes by. Now, Levi started to find this place incredibly boring. He wonders if he'll have to stay here all alone for an entire year. No one to talk to, no entertainment. To pass the time, he decides to read the books in the cupboard. When he takes books from the cupboard, his eyes suddenly fall on the wall behind it. Some notes are written on that wall. These were the notes of all the people who had done their duty in this tower before him. Every note mentioned fear, loneliness, and the dangers of the Hollow Man. One day, Levi hears the distinct sound of a machine operating from the West Tower. Levi quickly grabs his telescope and attempts to get a clear view of the distant East Tower, and that's when he suddenly spots a young woman. This girl turns out to be none other than Drasa herself, who had been specifically assigned to this very tower because of her exceptional sniping abilities. The moment Levi lays eyes on Drasa's striking beauty, his gaze becomes completely fixed upon her. However, Levi was unable to speak with her, as it would have been a clear violation of the established rules. Drasa too had become fully aware of Levi's presence, sitting there in the West Tower. In this manner, days continued to pass, and both of them pondered whether they ought to speak to one another or not. Then, after a few more days, Drasa's birthday came around. Drasa, feeling isolated and alone, believes she needs to speak with someone. She attempts to talk to Levi. Drasa uses a whiteboard to ask Levi, "What is your name?" Levi then remembers the rules stating that revealing names is not allowed. But Drasa, smiling, tells her name, "My name is Drasa." Levi, without much thought, also tells his name. Drasa announces that today is her birthday, and Drasa begins to dance, celebrating her special day. Drasa asks Levi, "Do you know how to dance?" Levi responds, "No, I don't know how to dance at all." At this, Drasa then inquires, "So what can you do then?" Levi replies by writing on the board, "I'm quite proficient at shooting." To test his shooting skills, Drasa places a small bottle on her tower right there in front of him, and Levi, carefully taking aim at his target, prepares to fire. He shatters that bottle with a single bullet. Drasa was not about to be outdone or fall behind now. She too, showcasing her exceptional shooting abilities, managed to perfectly shoot a tiny bottle that was placed in Levi's tower. From this, Levi quickly came to understand that Drasa was not just an ordinary girl, but a truly deadly sniper. Gradually, their conversations start to deepen. Drasa and Levi begin to understand each other more. But just as they are engrossed in their conversation, Drasa's gaze suddenly drops towards the deep pit below. She then sees some terrifying creatures, the Hollow Men, rapidly climbing up the West Tower from below. She quickly alerts Levi. Look down. There are creatures heading your way. The moment Levi glances down, his eyes widen in utter shock. Below, not just one or two, but thousands of creatures are swarming upwards. Without wasting a single moment, he grabs his sniper rifle and begins shooting the creatures down one by one. But the number of creatures is so vast that Levi cannot manage them by himself. So Drasa also begins to unleash a barrage of bullets from her machine gun. Now, creatures begin to advance towards the west tower, which is Drasa's position. Both of them start eliminating these creatures from their respective sides. But then Levi sees a creature has reached Drasa's tower, and just as that creature is about to launch an attack on Drasa, Levi from the east tower, using his incredible sniping skills, shoots down that creature. Now, Levi and Drasa both realize that if they want to survive in this dangerous place, they'll have to fight together. After everything is handled, Drasa says, "This was the best birthday of my life." The next morning, Levi fixes the landmines below and reloads the automatic gun. Suddenly, a drone emerges from inside the trench. That drone watches Levi for a few seconds. The drone performs its scan in a very strange manner. Upon witnessing this, Levi is utterly bewildered, and he cannot grasp the reason why or for whom this drone was deployed. In this fashion, days slowly pass, and then months follow. After these two had formed a strong friendship, their days were now passing quite pleasantly, and they no longer experience any feeling of loneliness at all. However, one particular day, Drasa became incredibly sad because it happened to be February 14th, and she distinctly remembered her father's chilling declaration. He had vowed that if he didn't succumb to his cancer in the next few days, he would tragically end his own life on that very day, February 14th. And here Drasa writes on the board and tells Levi, "I'm feeling very lonely today. Oh, if only I had someone by my side today, it would be truly wonderful." Levi had longed to meet Drasa right from the very first day, and now he simply couldn't hold himself back any longer. He quickly formulates a detailed plan to make his way over to Drasa. He cleverly figures out an ingenious method to reach the East Tower, utilizing a powerful rocket launcher. The very next morning, he skillfully employs the rocket launcher to propel a sturdy rope directly towards Drasa's location. Following this, Drasa emerges from the tower and she securely fastens a sturdy rope to a nearby tree, allowing Levi to swing across and reach the East Tower. Without a moment's hesitation, Levi begins to make his way towards the East Tower, relying on that very rope. However, he suddenly finds himself stuck midway as the rope's downward slope had completely come to an end. So now, Levi starts moving forward, using only his hands. After about half an hour of traveling this way, he finally reaches Drasa's tower. Drasa welcomes him and says, "You're giving off a really terrible smell of sweat. Asafa by the... So first, you go take a shower. Then I will meet with you." Levi finds this quite amusing and starts to laugh. He doesn't say a word, just nods his head, accepting her terms. Drasa, being quite mischievous, takes his clothes and hides them far away and then watches Levi through a CCTV camera as he takes a shower inside the tower. After that, Levi and Drasa sit down together and talk for a considerable amount of time. Drasa recounts her entire life story to him, explaining that she now has no one left in this world but herself. Her father was the only one who had survived, but she believes that yesterday he too must have taken his own life. In turn, Levi shares with Drasa the terrifying nightmares that plague him at night and also tales from his time serving in the US Army. As they continue their conversation in this manner, night falls. Drasa proceeds to put on some soft music here. The two of them begin to dance to the rhythm of the music. During this dance, they gradually start drawing closer to each other and a romantic connection begins to form between them. A little while later, Levi looks at Drasa and with a gentle smile, he says, "I have composed a poem just for you. I will share that poem with you only after we depart from this place." The next day, Levi had to return to his west tower. He says goodbye to Drasa and begins to climb the west tower using a rope. Drasa continues to watch him as he leaves, but then we notice some creatures heading up towards the tower and one of them hits a landmine, causing a huge explosion. When the landmine explodes, its iron fragments are propelled into the air. One of these fragments then strikes the rope, causing the rope to break apart, and he rapidly falls down into the deep ditch. Upon seeing Levi fall, Drasa, without a moment's hesitation, grabs her parachute and plunges into the same chasm. After plummeting deep into the gorge, Drasa finds herself swept away by a rapidly flowing river. She somehow manages to struggle out of the river's strong current and reach the safety of the bank. On the other hand, Levi was quite fortunate to fall and become entangled in the branches of a very large tree. After falling from such an immense height, he did sustain quite a few injuries, but thankfully his life was spared. The very moment his eyes flutter open, he notices a massive insect advancing, clearly intending to attack him. He desperately tries to defend himself, but just then, the tree branch snaps, and Levi plummets down onto the tree's roots. As he falls to the ground, the tree roots immediately begin to take hold of him, gripping Levi tightly. Before these roots could kill Levi, Drasa arrives on the scene. She quickly pulls out her knife and begins cutting through the roots, which then sets Levi free. Following this, Levi and Drasa begin to scan their surroundings. Everywhere, a deep silence and an oppressive atmosphere of fear prevailed. Then, quite suddenly, from behind the trees, some creatures emerge and launch an attack on them. A major fight then begins to unfold between them. Levi takes hold of his gun, firing the first shot directly into a creature's head. Working in tandem one after another, they both manage to eliminate both creatures. It is then that Levi's gaze falls upon the creature's lifeless body. He observes that the creature was clad in the identical army uniform, the kind once worn by American soldiers. Upon witnessing this sight, Levi's hair stands on end. He then recalls JD's words, who had mentioned that in 1940, a substantial group of 2,400 soldiers was dispatched into this very trench, and those servicemen never ever returned. Soon after, Levi and Drasa arrive at a strange, terrifying place. The entire scene before them was like something out of a nightmare. Rotting human bodies were scattered everywhere, and the most peculiar thing was that plants had sprouted from within these very bodies. It felt as if a deadly virus had completely taken over this entire place. Then quite suddenly, some movement emerges from between the trees. Levi and Drasa quickly understand that the creatures are once again relentlessly pursuing them. Overcome with intense fear, they both begin to run as fast as they possibly can, seeking refuge inside a crumbling old church. After they manage to securely close the heavy door, a truly bizarre and unsettling sight appears right before their eyes. There were human corpses lying all around. Their condition made it seem as though they had taken their own lives, perhaps to escape this deadly virus. Suddenly, a large spider leaps onto Drasa, and a whole lot more spiders emerge from nowhere. These spiders are quite large in their size. The moment the spider attacks them, Levi and Drasa quickly team up to finish it off. On the other side, that monstrous creature breaks down the church door and forces its way inside. Levi and Drasa, to save their own lives, begin firing upon them and somehow manage to break free from their grasp, escaping the church. Just then, Levi's eyes fall upon an ancient tunnel carved into the mountain face. Without hesitation, they both immediately rush inside the tunnel. Once deep inside, they realize it's actually an old abandoned laboratory. Broken glass, discarded machines, and old rusted containers lay scattered everywhere. Here, Levi discovers an old DVD cassette. He plays the DVD, and a young girl appears on the screen. The girl explains that we were all working here on a top-secret chemical missile project. Hundreds of scientists were with us. But then, one day, a massive earthquake struck this place. The powerful tremors from the quake caused the missile's chemical payload to leak. A poisonous chemical started mixing in the air. In just a few hours, people began to get infected by the virus. Showing her stomach, the girl explains that she is also infected. However, we informed the military of every single detail. We urged them to bomb this entire region, to completely obliterate it, preventing the infection from spreading any further. Yet, they completely disregarded our warnings. After watching this video, Levi discovers a new age computer there. Levi cannot fathom how a modern-day computer could be found in this remote location. Levi switches it on, and upon seeing the information contained within, he's utterly stunned. He discovers a company called Dark Lake, which specializes in creating paramilitary forces. This company collects samples from infected individuals here and conducts experiments on them to convert their country's soldiers into super soldiers. This is precisely why no country desires to completely erase this particular place. Additionally, Levi also comes to understand that deep within this trench, there is a truly enormous missile, and upon its activation, when it finally detonates, it will utterly annihilate everything within a 4.2-kilometer radius. Levi and Drasa understand this entire secret. They come to realize that Lady Bartow, who had sent them here, is actually the owner of this place and is misusing it. To keep this place a secret, Lady Bartow always chose someone for duty here who had no one to care for them. And after a year of duty, that person would be killed. The way JD was killed, to ensure he couldn't come out and tell the world about this place. After learning all of this, just as these two are leaving that very spot, a mounted creature then grabs Drasa with a rope and takes her away with him. Levi wanders here and there, searching desperately for Drasa, but she was nowhere to be found. Just then, Levi arrives at a particular spot where a very large missile was positioned. This was precisely the missile Levi had obtained information about from the Dark Lake Company's computer. Levi had understood everything clearly. The people who had lived in the watchtower before, when they warned that if a siren sound was heard, one should escape from there as fast as possible, they were actually talking about this very missile. Meanwhile, Drasa was now in the creature's grasp. Drasa struggles to free herself, and somehow she manages to break free. As soon as they are freed, a fierce fight breaks out between Drasa and the creature. Levi, who was searching for Drasa, also arrives there and immediately attacks the creature. Together, they manage to set it on fire and burn it completely. Now it's time for them to find a way to escape from this place. However, the path ahead was going to be even more difficult. As Levi and Drasa move forward, they encounter a dangerous area from which escaping would be a very big challenge. Here, humans and plants were completely intertwined with one another, as if they were the outcome of some dangerous experiment. Well, these people move forward, taking every step with utmost care, when suddenly Drasa's foot slips, which causes these plants to instantly activate. They immediately grab hold of Drasa. But at this critical moment, Levi, showing incredible bravery, pushes forward and with every ounce of his strength, successfully frees Drasa. He then strategically deploys a bomb, completely obliterating the entire plant's intricate system. Levi swiftly grabs Drasa and manages to make their escape from that dangerous location. After they've walked just a short distance further, they suddenly notice a garage, and inside, a vehicle is conveniently waiting for them. Both of them quickly climbed into the vehicle and immediately began their attempt to escape from that dangerous location. Eventually, after they had managed to cover a significant distance, they spotted a sturdy rope leading directly up to a watchtower. However, by then, those relentless creatures were also pursuing them and had already arrived at that very same spot. If they tried to climb up holding the rope, these creatures would kill them. So Levi, being smart, ties the jeep to the rope and begins to climb. They tie the jeep to the rope so they can sit inside, keeping their hands free to fight the creatures. The creatures attack them and a huge fight breaks out. But these creatures were quite numerous and they were starting to overpower them. At this point, an ingenious idea sparks in Levi's mind. He deliberately punctures the jeep's petrol tank, letting the fuel leak all over these creatures. Then, he sets the spilled oil ablaze, burning all of them. Finally, they cut the jeep's rope, sending it crashing down, which ultimately kills all the remaining creatures. And so, they finally managed to make their way to the top. By now, both of them had come to realize that even if they performed their duties here for a whole year, they would still ultimately be killed. That's why they both make a big decision now. They will no longer protect this place, but instead destroy it completely, so that no other soldier like them gets trapped here, and the misuse of this place finally stops. After doing all this, they will go far away from here and begin a new life. Here, Drasa says, I have a place to hide in France. We'll go there, get married, and spend the rest of our lives together, right there. Levi agrees to Drasa's plan, and then he says, I must return to my tower now. I'll go there and plant a bomb inside the tower, and simultaneously activate this missile, which will completely destroy this entire area. Following that, Levi makes his way back to his tower using a rope. Meanwhile, Lady Barto reaches out to Levi and questions him. Did you go down into this pit? Because someone has switched on our computer. Levi, however, lies and states, no, I did not go in there. But Barto knows full well that Levi is not telling the truth. They had already seen everything in the security cameras, that both Levi and Drasa had gone inside the pit. Yet, she pressed on with her point, saying, if you didn't go, then it's quite obvious that all this work must be the doing of that guard from the West Tower. You just killed that man from the West Tower, Drasa, because he broke the rules. Levi agrees, but Barto already knew he wouldn't kill him. She understood they were about to escape and tell the world about this place. That's why she herself arrives here in a helicopter. But before Barto could arrive, these two had already made all their preparations. Levi moves a considerable distance from the tower, then takes the longest shot of his entire life, firing directly at that tower which was connected to a missile position beneath it. This immediately triggers a loud, piercing siren. Now, their time was running out. Both of them began to run with urgency because when that missile detonates, it will devastate an area spanning 4.2 kilometers. Levi and Drasa both begin to run with all their might towards the jungle. Drasa, saving her own life, manages to get quite a distance away from that spot. But Levi had sustained an injury to his leg, which meant he couldn't run quickly. On the other hand, Barto had also come to realize that the missile was about to explode very soon. Right at that very moment, the missile activates, and a truly enormous explosion occurs, causing the entire gorge to start being obliterated. The blast was so horrific that its flames and shockwaves spread far and wide, engulfing Barto's helicopter, and she was killed right there on the spot. Drasa had already covered a distance of 4.2 kilometers, but Levi was caught in the explosion, and the powerful gust of wind from the blast threw him into the water. On the other side, every single creature within the deep ravine was killed. Now, only Drasa had miraculously survived that devastating explosion, and she stood upon a high vantage point, patiently awaiting Levi's arrival. She waits and waits until night descends, but Levi is nowhere to be found. She realizes that Levi is no longer alive. After this, the story shifts forward by several months. Drasa reads a poem that Levi himself had written. In every single word, she feels Levi's memories. With tears in her eyes, she tries to compose her heart. Now Drasa begins a new life, working as a waitress in a hotel in France. But then suddenly one day, Levi appears right in front of Drasa. He was alive. Seeing Levi, Drasa's eyes remain wide open in utter disbelief. Overjoyed, she runs and embraces Levi. And with this, the story comes to an end. If you enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe to our channel and please make sure to like it.